welcome to this session of SolidWorks Visualize. I'm Adam Hughes with GoEngineer, and yeah, we're just going to trek through this and take a look at some new exciting stuff that can certainly help you in your day-to-day processes and hopefully give you a new tool to start working on in the work environment. So first off, we can do these really awesome renders, videos of CAD models straight from SOLIDWORKS. So here's an example of a rendered video with some complex lighting, and believe it or not, this doesn't take a whole lot of time per se for setup. It will take some time to render, but this is the kind of image quality you can expect out of SOLIDWORKS Visualize. So cool, new, exciting stuff to add in our toolbox, if you will. All right, here's just another example, Sony camera that's been rendered. You can kind of have like the tech feel and then move to the ultra realistic feel towards the right hand side. And what is SolidWorks Visualize? Visualize is the camera of our CAD tool, right? And here's some examples of CAD models that have been rendered in Visualize. So Visualize isn't new to the rendering realm, right? And actually it's been around for a long time. It was previously called Bunkspeed, and now SolidWorks acquired it and it's called SolidWorks Visualize. So with that, there's a lot of existing customers that use the tool. Some you may recognize, like Ford or Honda or Chevy. So in fact, if you've been to like Ford.com and you've changed the color of a car or the interior from cloth to leather, and you're thinking about the idea of purchasing the vehicle, but you're switching all these things up, right? This is made possible because we have tools like Visualize. So maybe you recognize a couple of the manufacturers up there. All right, so we're gonna trek into Visualize itself, but before we do, I kind of want to set it up. So there are two different modes to SolidWorks Visualize. There's the simple user interface, and then there's the traditional user interface. Now, it essentially revolves around 5 steps to create a really nice, accurate render in SolidWorks. So the first step is open your CAD file, right? So you have an existing CAD file, you want to paint it, you want to make it look ultra realistic or more realistic than it looks in SolidWorks. So open up the CAD file, paint it, add the colors and textures and the detail that you're looking for. Apply a scene, so give it the proper lighting and backdrop that you're looking for, like a studio backdrop. Add in camera options. This could be like multiple cameras. So if you will, think of your part like resting on a table and then having like 20 cameras just all around it. Everything from the top view to the front view, right view, and then just take a picture all at the same time. So that's what we can do here in Visualize. And the last thing is render it, right? So send it through either your network or, run it on your local machine with your graphics card and trek along. All right, so without further ado, let's look at SolidWorks Visualize. So default, when you open up SolidWorks Visualize, this is what it looks like. So here I'm going to start a new project, and I'm going to have to browse for a file to open. So here I'm just going to go look for a Visualize, or a SolidWorks file rather. I'm going to click on Import, browse to my directory here, and open up a file. Now one thing to note is this monitor file. So one of the great things about Visualize and of all SolidWorks products is that if you're in a part mode and you modify a part and that part's part of an assembly, we can see that modification as soon as we open up the assembly file. So the same thing would apply here. So if the CAD file updates with monitor file checked on, we'll be auto-prompted to update the render file. What that means is that if engineering happens to change a particular component on the CAD file, then the render doesn't have the person doing the render doesn't have to start over, and they can just copy and paste different textures or colors to that new component or that modified component. So monitor file is a good thing. So we'll click OK and bring in our SolidWorks file. And a little trick here for those of you who might have already tried Visualize and played around with it. The Alt key is an essential tool for you to use. So if you're trying to navigate SOLIDWORKS or visualize and it's your first time using it, you're going to use the Alt key with the combination of your left, center, and right mouse button. So left mouse button will go ahead and rotate this thing. We can zoom in and zoom out, pan it up and down. Ooh, that was a little far. And then rotate it down to get a nice view. So you'll notice that the colors that are in Visualize right now actually propagated from SOLIDWORKS. Let's go ahead and take a look at that before we start changing anything. This is the SOLIDWORKS file, right? We have applied a default gold, SOLIDWORKS materials gold, and we've put glass in for the diamonds because there's no diamond color for SOLIDWORKS. So this is just a straight import, straight across, and that's what we get. So that can also save us some time too, because if we do happen to apply colors in SOLIDWORKS, then at least we can apply the right shade or texture or color here and Visualize. So it'd be really easy for me to identify that this is gold, and therefore I could apply gold here and Visualize. Same thing with the diamonds. So step 1, import the model. Step 2, paint it. So this can be pretty fun too, and just to see the different colors I guess you can get out of it. But what also makes this enjoyable actually is that if not all of your colors or textures are located here like in your default library, what you can do is you can go to the cloud, and anything that you have currently loaded to your C drive, to your local drive, will show up with a green check, and anything that's not loaded will not have a green check. So you can see like, oh, brown seatbelt, I just clicked on the automotive button. And the idea with this is that the cloud is constantly being updated and there's more materials that are being added, and then customers can also add their materials to it. So for instance, like you could find Ford magnetic blue, right? You can drag Ford magnetic blue onto your part and everything's good. So you have the same color and they all match. So if I wanted to, I could click and use this gray seatbelt and drag it on. And up in the upper right hand corner here, what you'll see is a loading. So it's downloading it from the cloud and then loading it to your local drive. So if I don't want to wait for that, I can just click the exit. The idea is that this is an option for you, so you're not limited to a set of render options, if you will. So I'm going to go back to my local drive, and here I've got 24 karat gold somewhere, so I can just drag and drop 24 karat gold on. There we go. We have a jewelry quality gold, not just your default gold from SOLIDWORKS. So let's go ahead and change this glass as well. So we have diamond. We'll just drag and drop diamond on, and then we have diamonds, right? Diamonds in our CAD model. The next step here is applying a scene. So we'll click on scene, and again, the same library functions apply. So if I wanted to go to the cloud and grab different scenes, I certainly could. Here we'll just go ahead and drag Dazzler and throw it in space. So again, you have all these really nice options to very quickly and easily add realistic quality to your CAD model. For for us CAD guys, I feel like, oh yeah, this looks great, this is good, let's go ahead and push it out. It's like, sure. And then for the other guys who are looking for maybe something just a little bit more detailed, they want to add some more, or they want to change how the lighting hits the model, we can certainly do that too. So if you'll notice, like right about here, there's like a light shining on our ring. So I can go ahead and shift the environment to change how the light reflects off the model. Now, what you might have noticed there is that as I was changing the environment, the render was updating. So what we have here is an active render. If I rotate the model, I see that update. So that brings us to like this next step. Here at the very top of our manager here, we have 3 different options. So we have a preview mode, a fast mode, and an accurate mode. Now, I typically find working in the fast mode is best for my computer, my graphics card. If you have a higher end graphics card, you can run in the accurate mode all the time. If you have a lower end graphics card, or maybe if you're just using your CPU, you might have to go into the preview mode, which kind of gives you just the look of it, but not necessarily the vivid quality. And then the accurate mode does a full light trace, and you can see that it's actually calculating per pixel here. This is what we call noise. Those pixels just haven't calculated yet. And I don't know if you can hear it or if you can't, but my computer is actually spooling up right now because my graphics card's definitely working. what we have here is active renders so that we can see, we have a good idea about what this render looks like. So I'm going to go back to fast mode. We'll kind of leave it there for a second. So the next button over here, and this is kind of showcasing the simple user interface, right? We're clicking step by step, takes 5 steps to create a render, is the camera button. So this is where I can add new cameras. I can lock this camera in place. So it's like, okay, this is a view that I want. And I'm just going to lock it here. And now I'm going to create another camera, maybe of a side view of this, or maybe a slightly different like ISO angle. And I can add that there. So I can lock my camera, add cameras if I wanted to. Here I can also change the brightness, so I could bump up the brightness just a little bit. Oh, but I've locked it, so I need to unlock it. So we'll bump up the brightness, bump up the perspective, kind of change, you know, just the look of the part. This is all subjective. It's all up to your eye and maybe what, your customers want to see. And I can also throw on like, give this an antique look, a sunrise, boost, and kind of take it from there. So we're going to turn the filters off for now, but some really nice, easy, and there's more filters you can add to. There's more than just the 6. This little wheel here also allows you to pre-position the model. So if I wanted to look at like the right-hand side, there's the right-hand side, left-hand side, so on and so forth. We'll just kind of go ahead and get this back into place there. That looks good. And then the last option, once you're done adding your cameras, is to render the image, right? So we can click on the render tool and start rendering right away, or I can right click and I can adjust my render profiles. So this is really important too. The higher the resolution and the more frames, the more passes, if you will, the more realistic your model can look. But sometimes you just need a small picture, and sometimes you need a full page picture. Here's a good example of one here at the bottom. It's a interior render. So interior renders happen to take more time. This would be like the interior of a car or the interior of a house. It needs more time to calculate that light bouncing off all the walls and off the stove and off of glass and off your sliding door and all that such, that you need to run it a little bit longer to get a better image. But you can set up these render profiles per your company specs and then render out what you need. So here I already have a render made, and we're going to track back into SolidWorks. I just have a little link here, and you can see in about, it takes about 2.5 minutes to render this guy, that's the kind of realistic photograph that you can create and visualize simply from your CAD model. In the past, this would have gone to maybe a whole different department, or maybe you would have outsourced this. Now we can do it right here natively in SolidWorks Visualize. So another thing too is, what happens if that CAD model changes? I told you with monitor file, we should be able to see the update from Visualize. So here I just have another display state added. I've thrown in some other diamonds just randomly. I just copy these diamonds and route randomly through them in space. I'm going to go ahead and save this, and then we're going to go trek back into SolidWorks Visualize. And what you'll notice is we have this notification that pops up. It says the following source file has been updated, or has been changed. Would you like to update the render file? And you say yes. And then when we go into the SolidWorks interface, we're going to see the loading, or Visualize interface rather. We're going to see the loading in the upper right hand corner, and our diamonds are added. So I can copy these, copy the color of the diamonds over from one part to another. So if you have anything similar, it makes it really easy just to drag and drop the color over. And now I can redo my render. Right, so all the render setup is complete, just the rendering would have to be recalculated. So that's the simple user interface there. Let's go ahead and track back into our PowerPoint and take a look. So the idea that being able to create these ultra realistic renders, as you can see in just a couple of minutes, the idea that they're complicated certainly is not the case anymore. The simple user interface, simply click through your 5 buttons, and you can run through and get an awesome picture right off the bat. I will say though that the more parts you have, there we had 4 parts, we had 2 rings and 4 diamonds. The more parts you have, the more setup time you have. But copying and pasting your textures and colors and scenes can certainly cut down on some of that time. Obviously the rendering's fast, and it's actually live, right? If we have a graphics card that will support it. And any CAD updates are passed along. Again, kind of, reiterating the CAD update, which is a huge functionality here in SOLIDWORKS and SOLIDWORKS Visualize. Really just increases the effective communication across the board. We're going to try another thing here. Let's go ahead and take a look at another file I have set up. We'll go ahead and close this one down. And I actually want to, while this is opening, let's go ahead and open up this file in SOLIDWORKS. So again, this is a SOLIDWORKS assembly file. We have some default colors assigned to some of the faces, which can improve like how easy it is to manipulate and visualize. So let's just take a mental note of this. We have this black color, black plastic. We have like a red anodized. We have some glass. We might have some chrome. There's some water, orange, red, and blue. And at the end of the day, when we import this to visualize, we can capture all of these colors, hopefully saving us some time. So I'm going to go over two of the import options. Here's the standard file as it's imported. I'm going to use the spacebar button to transition to the standard mode here in Visualize. And what I want you to notice is that the tree structure here is going to contain all that same information as our SOLIDWORKS model. So we're going to see, all of our screws. We're going to see our espresso cup. And we even get like a nice little preview of what that solid component here in Visualize looks like. And maybe that we can communicate to the engineering department, or if the engineering department's doing this, we can say, hey, we need to change the espresso cup. Well, I can go back in the SOLIDWORKS model and see that, hey, I have an espresso cup. He wants to change that. Sweet. But this was all because we chose a specific import option, and particularly the automatic option. So if we just hit that import button again, one thing to note here, let's browse for the espresso maker. One thing to note before I open this up is that Visualize is really CAD agnostic. A lot of the functionality, the update functionality, exists solely with SOLIDWORKS files, but really if your company happens to use SOLIDWORKS and CATIA, or SOLIDWORKS and Pro-E, or whatever CAD modeler fits your bucket, we can use all those files and still create renders off them. So it's a real collaborative tool. So you'll see CATIA V5, V6, CapProj, Autodesk files, so on and so forth. So that's great. But here I'll select my espresso maker. I'm going to bring another one in. I'm going to bring a monitor file. But this time under part grouping, instead of doing an automatic, which is probably going to be like your go-to if you're using SOLIDWORKS files, I can select to import based off appearance. And so what that does is, instead of making each part or component like its own entity, which means you might have to apply, let's say, stainless steel to 10 or 12 screws, all those screws in SOLIDWORKS that had stainless steel applied to it, we can just drag and drop on one material here and Visualize and have that propagate over all 12 screws. So if we import based off appearance and we click OK, it's going to import right over the top of this guy actually. So we'll just give it a second. And then we'll see in my model tree that I should have a second espresso maker. Sweet. And it was imported differently, so that even gives you like a different icon here. So espresso maker imported based off of appearance, it's going to have a different root directory than the espresso maker imported automatically from the SOLIDWORKS file. Again, keeping all those parts independent. If I happen to grab the espresso maker and move it, let's just move it over a little bit. What I could do is under appearances, essentially this is the same as the user interface, by the way. It's just 5 tabs as opposed to 5 buttons. If I grabbed my red pod and put it over here, I would only be changing the single edge and the other side would still remain blue. But if I here apply blue to this edge, and remember that this one was imported based off appearance, or to this face rather, both faces would have the blue. option. So depending on what kind of files you're working with, or what kind of parts you make, or what you have that goes to market, one of these options is usually really good for you. So I'll just go ahead and delete this guy. We'll kind of truck along with some of the options there. All right. What else can we do with this, I suppose? Let's go ahead and get this in the center. If we go to appearances, sometimes the appearance you want is really close to your actual component, but it's not quite there. Or maybe you're making some like really interesting carbon fiber, right? So you can take an existing material and specify, okay, well, what is it first off? So let's go ahead and make this plastic instead of metal. We can change the color. Maybe we change this to like a light gray or something. And maybe I want to add, maybe this is carbon fiber, right? So let's make some carbon fiber. It's carbon fiber espresso maker. Sure, why not? We're just rendering, no big deal. So we can load these different textures that kind of change how that color looks. So here, if we zoom in now, so this guy, we can change the tile of the texture that we're bringing in. I think I need to make this, if I make it larger, it makes it smaller. So go up to like 4. And then if I zoom in now, you can kind of see, hey, that looks like carbon fiber, or more like carbon fiber. I might still need to do a couple more things to it. So if I click that face there, we can maybe change the index of refraction, turn down the roughness so it gives it more of a shine, change the reflectivity. And when you have, I guess, all the time in the world to create a really awesome render, or not that any of us have all the time in the world, but you guys get what I'm saying. You can really get down to the nitty-gritty details of how you want this to look. And then you can save this appearance so that you can use it later in your other CAD models. And then if you really want to share it with other people, you can go ahead and load it onto the cloud and, hey, here's a new carbon fiber plastic that anybody could use. So that's pretty cool. I'm going to go ahead and put my blue back on there just to keep it the same as the other side. But that's how easy it is to make your own custom material. All right. With scenes, before you saw me add a scene where we just captured the lighting. If you wanted to add a scene in, we would want to show the environment, we have to turn off our backplate. So let's go ahead and turn our backplate off, turn this backplate off, and then now we can see, instead of just the lighting effect of that, we can go ahead and see that, hey, this is actually in a kitchen. All right, so let's just zoom out. There's my table. If I rotate it around, I can see my countertops, and so on and so forth. Then we can position this on there so that it looks like it's on the edge of a table. When the render calculates, it looks like it's sitting in your kitchen. Certainly an option there. With cameras, but before we do that, let's turn our backplate back on real quick. And let's not show our environment. Another cool thing that I want to show you in cameras is depth of field. This is super easy to use, and it's a whole lot of fun. I'm going to position this because I really want to highlight that this is a SOLIDWORKS espresso maker. You can buy this from SOLIDWORKS. I'm just kidding, you really can't. But if your logo is here, you could highlight your brand and make it pop and stand out to the customer. Field of depth is pretty easy to use. You turn it on, and then you use this little camera, this little eye locator, to focus in on the object that you want to be sharp. And then so your logo here would be sharp, and then everything else around it would kind of be blurred out. I can change my f-stop if I wanted it to be more or less sharp. So I think if I bring that up too high, everything comes in too focused. So maybe we'll make this like 0.5. And then hopefully what we see is like the screws are blurred out and the SOLIDWORKS is focused. 0.5 is probably too too small because all I see is the solid. So like 0.75 or something. Throw that in there, capture that, render it, and you have some really great marketing information for your website, or just something to make your product stand out. The last thing here is we can easily navigate our libraries. We can browse for appearances, cameras, environments, models, edges, projects, templates, so on and so forth, and add or remove or make a favorites folder for each one so that you can easily navigate that there. Again, your cloud button is still an option, so you can always download, drag and drop them into new folders and keep them there for later. A couple things before we jump back into the PowerPoint here. Under Tools and Options, when you first load SOLIDWORKS Visualize, the default user interface is 960 by 540. That is the size of this window. So for my computer, I'm running a Dell Precision M6800 with a K2100 or M2100 graphics card. If I bump up to full window, again, because we're rendering per pixel, each pixel is rendering, the more pixels I have, the longer it takes to update. So when you first install it, you'll have to figure out which one of these kind of scenarios you fit in. I could probably bump up to 1280, 720 and not see too much of an impact. But when I go to 1080p, it's just a little too sluggish for my personal taste. So I kind of like to leave it where it's at. Another really cool thing is with this these render options, there's like these scenarios that you can control. So steady, blended, or downscaled. So if I'm on, right now I think I'm in steady. If I go to downscaled, and let's turn off our depth of field, and let's go ahead and change it from fast downscaled to fast blended. Now if I rotate the model, what you'll see is like a cartoonish kind of looking preview, and then as soon as I stop rotating and release, it goes back into my render mode. So this might be good if you're kind of pushing the limits and you're kind of running like an entry-level graphics card. This might be a good solution for you, just so you can get some really nice like user interface characteristics with it. All right, so let's go ahead and summarize some of this stuff here. SOLIDWORKS Visualize, right? I showed you two models now, and just how easy it is to make changes and add updates and propagate changes from the SOLIDWORKS model. There's two packages. There's the Visualize Standard package and the Visualize Professional package. Now the good news for all of you who are currently SOLIDWORKS users is that if you have SOLIDWORKS Professional or SOLIDWORKS Premium, you have Visualize Standard for free, and you can download it right now. And I know one of those questions is going to be, Adam, where can I get this download? I want to start using this, right? Because we're all so excited about SOLIDWORKS Visualize. Of course, I'm going to show you that. We'll get there. But simply copy and paste your SOLIDWORKS serial number into the Visualize serial number inputs and activate, and you're good to go. So if you're a Pro or Premium customer, you got this. If you're an Office or Standard or Core customer, perfect reason why to upgrade to Pro. Right? Contact your local SOLIDWORKS sales representative for additional information on upgrading from Core to Pro. Of course, Visualize can also be purchased as a standalone or as a separate seat. So you could just buy one seat of Visualize if you didn't want to do that upgrade. But right now, the cost for Visualize Standard is more than the cost to upgrade from Core to Pro. So you can kind of, one-two it to your management and have them approve that. So SOLIDWORKS Visualize is the next bucket up, and that's what I've been working in, although all the stuff that I've showed you today has pretty much been a standard functionality. There's lots of reasons to jump to Pro. There is no upgrade path from Pro right now, so if you're thinking you can upgrade from SOLIDWORKS Core to SOLIDWORKS Pro and then get Visualize and take that Visualize standard seat and upgrade it to Pro, it's not quite how it works. Visualize Professional would have to be added in addition to. But the great news is that it's not tying up a seat of SOLIDWORKS, so and it can be installed on a separate machine. So running SOLIDWORKS Visualize doesn't tie up a SOLIDWORKS user, which is good. Same as Visualize Professional. Real quick, a hot topic, it seems like of recent since Visualize has hit the market, is talk about GPU and CPU. I was running in hybrid mode, which utilizes both my CPU and GPU, but we'll just talk about this for a quick second. So here's a time elapse of a CPU render for 10 seconds versus a GPU render for 10 seconds. So it is pretty critical that you are running a decent graphics card. SOLIDWORKS Visualize only supports NVIDIA, and this is due to the ray tracing, which is a NVIDIA specific technology. The other thing is the use of CUDA cores. So CUDA cores again is an NVIDIA specific technology, so you will need to have a graphics card made by NVIDIA, preferably like a workstation card so that it can be used as SOLIDWORKS, that has ray tracing and CUDA core functionality. Now, the hybrid mode utilizes both the CPU and the GPU, and let's talk about that just for a second because I think a lot of us are going to fit in that bucket. We have, a decent workstation graphics card that runs SolidWorks, and we're going to jump into Visualize. So, what does hybrid do for me? So, if you're running strictly GPU mode, it's going to utilize all the functionality of your graphics card, including its RAM. So typical RAM on like an M2100 I think is 2 gigs, 3100 is like 4 gigs. And when you get a file that's really large or you have a lot of textures applied to the file, you can fill up those 4 gigs pretty fast. So when you're running hybrid mode, it allows you to use your CPU but also your memory that's located on your motherboard. So if you have 16 gigs of RAM because you're a SolidWorks user and you have a 4 gig graphics card, you have 20 gigs of, hypothetically 20 gigs of GPU or visualize capabilities. So hybrid mode's a good thing. If you're running a really high-end graphics card, the hybrid mode can slow you down a little bit, so I just recommend, if you're using like an M5100 or any of the K6000, 7000, 8000 series, just run it strictly in GPU mode. So that's my spiel on GPUs. If you guys have any more questions about that, go ahead and type them in the chat and we'll talk about it towards the end. Another great thing, speaking of like productivity and graphics and all that stuff, is it can be relatively expensive to upgrade everybody's graphics card in a in a work environment. It's like everybody needs a K4000. That's 4,000. That's 400 per computer, 800 per computer. We got 10 computers. It stacks up really quick. So a really cool benefit of jumping to Visualize Professional is the productivity tools. And actually, what we've seen is a lot of customers are jumping to the productivity tool solely for the Q rendering and the Boost network rendering. So Boost network rendering will be available in like 3 months. It's not quite out yet, but the Q rendering is pretty cool. With Visualize Pro, the idea is you could have all your projects saved, push them to your server, which maybe has a really good like K4000 graphics card in it, and then overnight all your renders calculate and update, and then when you come back in the morning, everything's completed. So you can stack up potentially like 4 or 5 users worth of work, throw it on your server, and get it all knocked out. Visualize Pro also allows for some advanced lighting capabilities. So if you want to do like a sun trace or a sun elapse or time elapse or like a day night, like you can see the sun move around and then it sets and the moon comes up and then it sets and then so on and so forth, and you can see kind of like the shadows and lighting of that. You can do that sort of thing in Visualize Pro. Also included in Visualize Pro is animation. So if you want to create a video, an animation of your part, you want to sweep a camera around all the edges, you want to put it on a turntable and let it turn and rotate so you can see all the specular images. That's going to be a pro functionality. So those are some of the options for you. You can also, it automatically sews and knits all your renders into an image or into a video file if you're looking for that kind of functionality. So why SolidWorks Visualize? Hey, it's the camera of your CAD tool, right? Take all the detail and all the time you spend, articulating exactly why your product is better and superior than everybody else's, and make it visual to the customer. Send them that image, send them the render, send them the video that shows them the details. So reduce your time to market, be more collaborative with the engineering team. For instance, here, like the current workflow is, hey, you go through your sketching, you create your 3D model, you generate some prototypes, you manufacture it. Then after you manufacture it, you can put it in a studio, and take some pictures of it. And this all takes a very long time. So what you can do now is straight from SolidWorks, go to Visualize, and then start your prototyping, start your manufacturing, all the while marketing or your internet team is developing these awesome images to throw on the website and then basically generate your income faster, right? So it's more of a parallel process and not so linear. So increase your return on investment. Here's a really cool picture of a new Corvette that has some motion blur. This would be like a SolidWorks Visualize Professional image. And here is a cabin. Again, this has some advanced lighting, but these things look ultra realistic, and these are CAD models, right? This came from SolidWorks. Like, companies spend all this time, adding these details of making their product stand out. Why not have an awesome image or animation that dictates all that work, that shows the customer, hey, look, this is what you expect, this is what you're getting for your money. And it doesn't take very long. It's not super complicated. So here's it's a plethora of pictures here that you can take a look at. And this, I've actually seen this CAD model. It's missing the pedal. It really is missing the pedal in the CAD image. There's like a configuration that doesn't have a pedal in it, and for whatever reason it rendered this configuration, and so we're missing a pedal. But this is indeed just a CAD model. It's not a physical bike. This is not a bike you can go ride. Although it looks like it. We couldn't take a cruise on this thing just yet. You might be able to pre-order it though. Looks good enough to pre-order. I'd pre-order it. Some great animation effects where we can kind of add some emotion to our images to make it look like something's turning. Can also be a visual enhancement. A good indicator there. Lastly, like internal environments. These do take a little bit longer to render. But looking at the realism of this photo, speaks 1,000 words, if you will. Picture speaks 1,000 words. So, in summary here, it's like, why visualize? Hey, it's fast. I've shown you how easy it is. It doesn't take a whole lot of time to get used to it. And if you're a SolidWorks user like myself, I'm not so much a render guy, but you'll find that clicking along and finding, where some of these tools are at and how to use them is just as easy as like learning a new tool in SolidWorks. So again, SolidWorks Visualize comes with every seat of SolidWorks Professional or higher. So Professional and Premium both come with a seat of SolidWorks Visualize, and you can leverage this now. And so what I wanted to do here is kind of show you where you can download this. So let's see. Okay. So if you go to solidworks.com, you go to Login. What we can do here is go to our customer portal and then type in our login information. If you don't know how to, or if you don't have a customer portal account, or if you don't know how to create one, you can go to our website and leverage our knowledge base. So you can type in like customer portal and then hit search, and you can watch a video by yours truly. Oh, let's search for videos, filter for YouTube videos, search, and you can watch a video on how to use the customer portal. Likewise, you can search all kinds of great things in here. Us engineers here at GoEngineer, there's like 72 of us that are responsible for creating this web content. These videos can be easily shared by clicking the share link with other members in your company to save you time. And there's just a lot of great information there. So I'd encourage you, if you're on your next project and you're between a rock and a hard spot, to take a look at this and see if there's anything here that can help you out, any videos that might teach you something new. All right, so you go ahead and log into our customer portal. And then under downloads, there is a SolidWorks Visualize download. So you'll see downloads. This is where you can download SolidWorks. Here's where you download SolidWorks Visualize. So you can click on SolidWorks Visualize and trek along, type in your information, hit the download now, and start using it right away. Again, copy and paste your SolidWorks serial number into your Visualize, input serial number location, and it'll activate. Let's see. Another thing while we're here at GoEngineer, being GoEngineer customers, and if you aren't a GoEngineer customer, I'd encourage you just to call and take a look at it. But you can always call our technical support hotline, 888-559-6167, to speak to a engineer here in the States who is certified to help you with that particular topic. So whether it be SolidWorks, Visualize, Simulation, Composer, whatever it may be, when you go into that queue and you're looking for help, you're getting someone who's competent in that particular field. Another thing is our training events. So this is like one of our events, our web events. You can take a look and leverage other events that are here. Kids Camp is also an option, and Kids Camp is you drop your kid off during the summer and he learns all new about SolidWorks and 3D printing and all kinds of great stuff like that. And then we also have our support, self-serve support. Our new thing here is SolidWorks or Go University. This is a way for you to take an online course and take it kind of like at your own pace. The idea here is that it's a linear set of videos that correlate to one topic. And then soon that's going to be on here is a Go University topic for SolidWorks Visualize, so you can keep an eye out for that. So that's about what I had today. Did anybody have any questions that they wanted to type in the chat, or did they see anything you like there? Any chat questions? No? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and type in my email in the chat. So feel free to copy and paste that. Paste that into an email. If you have any direct questions, you can go ahead and send them to me. And yeah, thank you very much for joining us here for SolidWorks Visualize. Keep an eye out on our website for new exciting stuff and new videos and tutorials and help. Thank you all for joining. This is Adam Hughes with GoEngineer. Thanks for watching.